guys, it's Mandy. Welcome to my channel. So I've recently gotten a few requests to make a video about owner financing properties. And I think to really cover this topic, I need to make two videos. One going over the technical aspects of owner financing, because there are a couple different routes that you can take and a couple different avenues that you can take to get there. And so I'll go over that in another video. But this video is just going to be how I owner finance a property. So for me, I never go out and purchase a property with just the sole intention of owner financing that property. I think that it's a little bit too much risk for me. I would rather purchase the property and then just rent it out. And if down the road my tenant wants to purchase the property, then that's fine. I have no problem with owner financing it to them. But as far as just buying a property and then automatically owner financing it the next month to a stranger, I feel like that's quite a bit of risk. Even though you are taking measures to minimize your risk, you're going to require a pretty big down payment, and then you're going to do a credit check and a background check and that kind of thing. It's still more risk than I want to take on, even though there are investors who do this and they do it very well and they're successful and they make lots of money. It's just not something that I want to do. I would rather just rent the property. Now, if my tenant does, I have a good long-term tenant, someone who's always paid their rent on time, every single month, they've taken good care of the property, then I have no problems with owner financing to them. I think it's a win-win for both of us. That tenant can now be a homeowner when otherwise maybe they wouldn't be able to because they don't qualify for a traditional mortgage. Now they can become a homeowner, and also I am able to make money in the form of interest each month, but also let's assume that I was a good investor and I bought the house at below market value, and now a few years later I can price it at a fair market value price, and that will be more than I paid for the property. So I'm also making money on the principal there. And if, like right now, when the market's really high and house prices are high, if I was to sell something and owner finance it today when the market's high, then I could maybe buy, let's say the market drops next year, I can buy when the market's low. That's good as well. Or even if you're just selling and you're making owner finance agreements in the summer and then you're buying in the winter when prices are usually lower. So for me, I feel like I am minimizing my risk as much as I possibly can by only owner financing to tenants who I have at least a 2-year relationship with. So I have at least 2 years of rental history with them. I know that they've always paid their rent on time. I know, they haven't done anything destructive to the property. I'm just really not worried. I know that they've shown to be responsible, and I'm not worried about going into an owner finance agreement with them. Let's assume that you're to the point where you know you want to owner finance a property. So how do you come up with the terms? And for me, I know my market really, really well. I am pretty much on Zillow every single day, realtor.com. I look at every single listing that comes available in our area. So I know, and I look at everything that sells, and so I know what houses are going for. I know what an upper end 3-bedroom 2-bath is worth, and I know what a lower end 3-bedroom 2-bath is. I know how much location plays into the price point and acreage, the lot size, that kind of thing. I know the value of a house pretty well. I can kind of tell you, at least I can tell you if it's a fair price, a really good price, or too high. And so what I do is I just price the house at fair market value. And I'm okay with, for me, because these are tenants, they've already rented the house for quite a while and they've been good tenants. I'm okay with pricing it at a little bit of the lower end of market value. We're assuming that, I bought it for lower than whatever market value is. But I'm okay with pricing it at the lower end of whatever the range of the house that I feel the house would go for. And so I price it at a very fair market value price. But it's still high enough that I know that I could replace that house with a very similar house for the money that I'm selling it for, right? So let's say that it's a 3-bedroom 2-bath and I say, okay, I'll sell it for $50,000. I know that I would be able to buy another 3-bedroom 2-bath that's in similar condition in a similar location for that same price. Okay, and then for interest, and here's where you're going to see me differ from from the investors who are out there just owner financing properties. Most of the time, those investors are going to suggest that you go with a really high interest rate, even up to like 10% or higher. I see people say 9.5, I see people say 8, and to me, those interest rates are high. Now, if you want to do that and you can get your tenant to agree to that high interest rate, by all means go ahead. But for me, I just don't think I could sell a house at that high of an interest rate to a tenant where I feel very little risk, because I do think interest rates should be proportional to the amount of risk that you're taking on, and I feel like I'm taking on very little risk with my tenants, so it doesn't feel fair to put the interest rate at so high. So I like to keep my interest rate between 4 and 6%. I think a good rule of thumb would be just to price it 2% higher than whatever the bank, the going interest rate from the bank is, which I know that's a range as well, but 4 to 6%, and typically I would just go with 5% down the road, 5% interest. The amount of money that you're going to be bringing in each month in interest is significant, even at just 5% or even 4%. So because I feel like I'm taking on very little risk with my tenants, I don't put my interest rate very high. And then, although they may feel differently, they may feel like the interest rate is high. So it's just about, perspective, I guess. And then the next thing you should consider is how much of a down payment are you going to require. And what I do, I would not suggest that you do, but I don't actually require a down payment from my tenants. Like I said, I just feel like I'm taking on not very much risk, and I haven't required a down payment in the past, and it's always worked out fine. I don't suggest that you do that, especially if you are owner financing to someone you don't really know. Then you would want to require a significant down payment. So don't do what I do, but I'm just being honest with you and sharing what I do. Now you're going to want to play with these numbers a little bit. So don't go buy some calculator app or some expensive program. Literally type in mortgage calculator in Google and just use the mortgage calculator that Google provides for free. So you're going to put in the principal, so how much you're selling the house for, you're going to put in your interest rate, and you're going to put in your term length. So the most common term length would be 30 years, but a lot of times I'll do like a 20-year term length with my tenants. You can do whatever you want. 30 would be more preferable because you're going to be making more interest in the long run, unless you want that money sooner, and then I would suggest you go with a lower term length. One thing that you can do is you can give them options. You could say 5% interest if you're going to do a 20-year term length, or 5.5% interest if you're going to do 30 years. Their monthly payment would still be smaller than 30 years, but you would be making more in interest. And you can just play with those numbers. Then you can kind of, you can put the price for the house a little higher, a little lower. You can do the interest a little higher, a little lower, and you can see over the course of 30 years how much would they have paid for the house, what will that monthly payment be, and then you can just decide on what you feel is fair, and then tell, these are my terms. If you want to purchase the house, here's the terms, and then they can either agree to those terms or they may counter, and it's up to you, of course, if you want to accept a counter or if you want to just say, no, my terms are my terms, take it or leave it. It's up to you. So from there, you're just going to collect their payments each month. They will have taken over the insurance, the property taxes, and the maintenance, so you don't have to worry about any of that anymore. You're just going to collect the payment and you're going to take really good records. Now, at the end of the term, whether it's 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, and they do have the option to pay off early as well, right? So if they pay it off early, whenever they're done paying off the property, all you're going to do is go back to the title company and you're going to release them from the mortgage. And then you're just going to file that with the courthouse. They now own the property and everything's done. They've been released from the mortgage and you have been paid for your property. So that is how I do it. And like I said, it's worked out really, really well, except for that one time when I, for whatever reason, thought it would be a good idea to owner finance to someone who never paid rent in like the last 10 years. terrible idea. Do not do that. But even that situation worked out fine. I'll link that video down below. But they actually paid off that house this month. Her parents took over the payments. I think it really ate into their savings, and I feel terrible about that. But they ended up paying it off this month. So that one even worked out okay. But all the other ones have been great as well. And let me know if you have any other questions. I will make another video about the technical aspects, so I can, if you do have any other questions about owner financing, I can maybe answer those in that second video as well. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Bye.